I'd like to call the regular city council meeting of the city of East Lansing for May 27th, 2025 to order, please. Could we have the roll call?
Councilmember Altman.
Here.
Councilmember Meadows.
Here.
Councilmember Watson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh. Mayor Brookover.
Here. Let me just say before we approve the agenda, I'm well aware of the fact there are people that want to speak with regard to the proposed gas station at the corner of Lake Lansing and Abbott. Because of a notice issue that we just discovered here in the last 24 hours, we did not properly notice some residents of Meridian Township who require notice. So I believe what we're going to end up doing here, subject to motion from the council, is my terminology, adjourning the public hearing for tonight, which would mean it would get moved to a date in June, not next week. And we still have to sort that out with the city attorney, but a possibly likely date is, I think, June 17th. Having said that, anybody that wants to address us in public comment with regard to that can, if they want. We've read all the stuff you submitted. And the folks from the proponents, I mean the landowner, they're not going to make a presentation tonight. So I guess the way this works is if you want two bites of the apple, fine. If you want to defer things until we actually have the public hearing, that's fine too. So I just wanted to give you all that indication. So having said that, can we have a motion relative to the agenda, please?
Yes, I'll move approval of the agenda minus item 5.1 and then renumbering, I guess that would be section 5 actually. Renumbering section 6 and eliminating section 7, the closed session.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Watson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Record should show that Ms. Ebersol Singh has arrived. And we now have a motion, so that's the motion on the agenda. So now we have before us item 1.3, approval of the minutes of the regular council meeting of May 13th, 2025, and the city council discussion only meeting of May 20th, 2025. Do we have a change? All right, do we have a motion or any changes with regard to those minutes, please?
I'll move approval of both sets of minutes.
Okay.
Support.
Okay, moved by Altman, supported by Meadows. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Communications, item 2.1, all written communications received by council are posted on the online agenda packet. Communications from the audience, I have several slips here. Subject to my comments earlier, I'll just call people's names if you want to pass for tonight. You certainly can come back on another occasion. So Jeff Friedel.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. I'm appearing here with two different hats on tonight. My first hat is on behalf of the Red Cedar Community Association, and I'm appearing in support of approval of item 4.5 on the Council 27 May 2025 agenda, which is a memorandum of understanding between the City of East Lansing and East Lansing Public Schools to establish an emergency ingress-egress from Emerson Park for the Ivanhoe neighborhood through an existing sidewalk and parking lot of the Red Cedar Elementary School. It's been a long time in company. Thank you for taking a look at that. My second hat here is from the Building Board of Appeals. The Building Board of Appeals at their 22nd of May 2025 meeting passed a motion requesting council pause action on item 6.4 of the agenda relating to proposed changes to the sign ordinances, section 32-105 and section 32-109, until the members of the Building Board of Appeals are able to review the proposed changes. Thank you very much.
Brianna Egan.
Hello, Brianna Egan. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'm here today to express my strong opposition to the resolution proposing a dedicated Parks and Rec millage. Let's call this what it is, a deeply flawed, red herring proposal and another example of the short-sighted decision-making, lack of meaningful community engagement, and failure to responsibly manage public resources. At the heart of this proposal is a disturbing shell game. You're proposing to eliminate the general fund's contribution to Parks and Recreation and replace it with a so-called dedicated millage. But this isn't about supporting Parks and Rec, it's about backfilling the general fund with the Hannah Center's operating budget, and doing so by shifting the burden to the residents. This isn't transparent, it isn't fair, and it certainly isn't a solution. In fact, it undermines public trust. We've seen this tactic before, like with the library. Threaten essential programs, and then ask residents to fix it at the ballot box. Now we're told that unless we approve this millage, vital services will be cut. Swim lessons, youth sports, senior programs, after-school programs, partnerships with public schools. These are not luxuries. These are the kinds of services that make East Lansing a community worth living in. Presenting this proposal without meaningful outreach, without alignment to the city's own budget process, without input from advisory commissions is a slap in the face to those who volunteer their time and care deeply about these issues. It's part of a growing pattern of bypassing process, ignoring feedback, and disrespecting transparency. Meanwhile, costly development studies on capital projects continue to move forward. In fact, some are being accelerated. Projects that many residents never asked for, projects that sometimes create more problems, like pushing speeding traffic into school zones. While we are told we can't afford basic services like traffic enforcement or keeping the Hannah Center open. That is not responsible governance. If passed, this millage sets a dangerous precedent. It opens the door to more ballot asks down the line. How many more times will residents be asked to pay again for services we thought were already part of the general fund? The Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission's own letter raises critical questions, none of which have been answered. Will the general fund contribution be completely eliminated in 2026? What happens if this millage fails? Will you still make these cuts? What is the actual millage amount? What are we voting for? And if a future renewal fails, will these programs again be held hostage? These are basic questions, and the absence of answers is unacceptable. It reflects a lack of transparency and a lack of foresight. Even more frustrating, city officials have acknowledged that other revenue sources like parking lot leases have been in the past redirected to large capital development projects. Why are we defunding core services while investing in speculative development and trendy initiatives that don't serve most residents? Let's be clear. This part of the Parks and Recreation budget is not an optional service. It is foundational to a strong, healthy, equitable city. These programs support children, seniors, working families, and our shared quality of life. To strip even the relatively small amount of the general fund support they receive is a betrayal of the promises made to this community. We don't need another education campaign. We need leadership that listens and plans for the long term. Yes, the loss of the BWL franchise fee revenue was a serious hit to the city's plans. But instead of responding with clear strategic planning, this council has chosen to treat residents like an ATM. That approach is eroding public confidence and driving our city into a reactive, unstable fiscal cycle. East Lansing is not a game of Sin City. This isn't about building shiny new things with a handful of developers or checking boxes with flashy presentations. This is about people, residents who expect thoughtful stewardship of their tax dollars. If this council continues to prioritize special interest and short-term budget fixes over real engagement and long-term stability, residents will continue to push back, and they'll be right to do so. I urge you, reconsider this proposal, abandon this flawed millage, come back to a transparent, inclusive, and forward-looking plan that truly reflects the needs and the voices of the people of East Lansing. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Barb Anderson.
Hello, I'm Barb Anderson. I live in East Lansing. And first of all, I'd like to thank all you city council members and Mr. Billman for your service, because I know there's a lot of meetings involved with your positions. But I'd also like to especially thank Dana Watson. I watched your video, and it is, everybody should watch it. It's like, yeah, we have a lot of work to do in our city. There is racism in our city. Their low-income people are not as respected as they should be. But anyway, I wanted to speak about traffic calming and the family definition. Traffic calming, as I testified a few weeks ago, is really needed for safety reasons in our neighborhoods. Speeding is such a problem. We don't have enough police hours to enforce our speed limits, and I'm very much in favor of putting in, like especially on the Harrison Hill, putting in some electronic speed monitors, you know, those signs that say you're going 40 in a 25 zone, because that is such a dangerous intersection, especially with Glencairn School there. But there's many other solutions too, you know, like speed bumps or planted areas in the middle of very wide intersections. And for the revising of the definition of family, in quotes, I want to live in a community where families of all stripes are welcome, and especially renters. Isn't that the reason why East Lansing exists and thrives? We were all students at one time and low income, renting, and in my experience, when I have lived in housing as a renter that is diverse, international, where all kinds of families exist, including single people, I feel safe in those communities. People of all races, all religions, and I am concerned about, like especially in my neighborhood in Glencairn, there's a lot of well-to-do people living in these big houses. We could have accessory dwelling units. You know, there's many options, co-housing, but you know, it shouldn't be just rich people making the calls. So that's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Richard Ballender?
I will withhold mine until the next, when you have the big discussion later on.
Thank you, sir. Catherine Raphael?
Thank you. I'm going to not withhold my big discussion because I'm going to be out of town, it sounds like. So thank you very much, and thank you for your work and service. I am a Meridian Township homeowner, and this intersection, it's kind of funny, but during COVID, I had a 1-year-old little boy. And what got me through COVID was his little car, and I would walk, and he would wave at everybody, this little boy, you know? I would cross, and I'd cross, and it just like mentally, physically, it got us outside. I have a 13-year-old daughter who's at soccer practice right now up the street. She's starting high school. Her friends in Hawk Nest ride their bikes, and they walk. They meet at my house, or they pass by, and they go to White Hills. And there is constant movement of these kids. Okay, they may stop at Speedway for a Slurpee, and I feel safe in my home. Having this gas station, I'm just totally against. I feel like it's unsafe. There's already so many traffic accidents there, and I just feel like it would change the flavor of the area. And I'm just very, very concerned about safety. I just want to really make it known that I see as a mother how much foot traffic there is and bicycle traffic. And one of the reasons I love where I live, and one of the reasons I bought, is because it's walkable. It's something I really value. And I feel safe sending my daughter on her bike, and even with her little brother in tow now. And And I won't feel that way. I think it'll just diminish our homes. So I'll leave it at that, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks for your input. Dale Inman?
I'll wait until 6:25.
Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah. Dr. Maxon?
Dr. Greg Maxon, owner of Maxon Dental PC, the property just adjacent to the proposed Meyer development. Was going to say more. I think I'll save some of it for the next meeting. I appreciate that you were willing to postpone. Was disappointed to find out maybe some folks were excluded in the conversation, so thank you for that. Just want to be clear, I am opposed to it. I'll go into the reasons at the next
All right.
meeting, though.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Doctor. Appreciate it. Okay, Ms. Maxon?
Well, 5 minutes certainly is not enough time for all the research that I've done over the months pertaining to the agenda. I think there's close to 200 pages. So my husband and I have raised concerns about this proposed project ever since the public hearing at the Planning Commission meeting back in early March. Our concerns remain the same here this evening, which is public safety and the environment. The traffic impact study, so I heard somebody report that they've read everything. So the traffic impact study that you have in the agenda, for a quick reference, if you just go to page 9, I just want to be sure that everybody's aware that it is in the documentation. But on page 9, it states that the study intersection experienced 80 crashes during the analysis period, resulting in a crash frequency of 16 crashes per year, which is higher than the average frequency of 12.38 crashes per year. So if you're introducing based on, now I'm not a traffic engineer, but the data in these charts during peak hours on the one day that they did the study for the past, the numbers are horrific. Just during the peak hours, so that's 2 hours, peak hour morning on a Thursday is when the study was done. Anybody that frequents this area knows, maybe not the most relevant time. And then also 2 hours towards evening peak hours. So that leaves what, 6, 7, 8 hours in between? So anywhere from a range of 300 stop and goes in a day. Anybody that frequents this intersection or has businesses or homes around this intersection already knows that this already high crash average is going to quickly move right up to critical. And if you vote yes, that's not checking the boxes for public safety. One gas station on this intersection is enough. Placing another gas station directly across from another gas station with 3 entrance-exit points is absolutely dangerous. It circulates the traffic completely different and is actually going to be an endangerment to the community. "11 of those crashes, it states in here, came directly from Speedway. Side swipes, rear ends, you have the information in there. So if 11 of those crashes came from Speedway, imagine how many more crashes are going to be coming from the egress that happens directly across on Lake Lansing, which actually is right next door to our office building. And then finally, I want to be clear that we are not opposed to development. As nice as it has been to see a beautiful green wooded lot out our patient windows, we didn't think it would stay that way forever. And the comprehensive plan that the city of East Lansing has for this site, it's for low profile suburban business and retail. And a gas station is anything but low profile. And then I'm going to make a few
You have
bold
30
statements.
seconds remaining.
To Mr. Gillespie, you stated at the Planning Commission meeting that you bought this dirt 2 years ago. This may be dirt in a transaction to you, but it's not to us. And no one here has been a good neighbor. It took a broker to reach out to us 1 week ago to actually have a conversation about the proposed project. And the property was not for sale and available to just anybody. Somebody on the Planning Commission made a comment that, well, if you didn't want it developed, you should have bought it. We didn't have that opportunity. I think my 5 minutes is up.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Anybody in the queue?
Queue.
I'm sorry?
There are
Nobody
no
in the queue?
callers in the queue.
Okay, we'll move ahead then to communications from the mayor and council members, starting with Dr. Altman. Please.
Thank you, Mayor. No report tonight.
Mr. Meadows,
No report this evening.
Ms. Watson,
Thank you. I wasn't going to say anything, but since Barb Anderson came up, I'm thinking, did you see the video about me announcing that I wasn't running? All right. So just to fill those in, for those who do not know, I do not plan on seeking re-election in November. But I am still in it till the bitter or excitable end. And I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your comments, and I'll stop at that. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Nothing from me.
Nothing from me tonight. City manager report.
I have nothing tonight.
City attorney report.
Nothing to report.
Okay, we therefore move to the special presentation, new officer introductions.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, and the community. I'm here tonight to introduce our two newest officers. We have the honor of welcoming back one of our own to the East Lansing Police Department. In 2019, Connor Ayatt graduated from the Mid-Michigan Police Academy and joined the East Lansing Police Department. In 2021, Officer Ayatt made the difficult decision to leave our department to pursue a career out of state. He worked for over 2 years at the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. He came back to East Lansing Police Department in March, and we couldn't be more thrilled to have him back. Outside of law enforcement, Connor is a big sports fan. His favorite activity is watching Notre Dame football with his dad and his grandfather.
Well, that automatically disqualifies him from.
We're working on getting him back to be a Spartan fan.
I would have thought that he would have had more discretion to let that even become public in this town. But
So moving forward,
just
we
me.
will
It's
only
just me.
hire Spartan fans. I also have with me here tonight Kim Robison, who just graduated from the Mid-Michigan Police Academy at the beginning of May. He has started the rigorous field training program at the East Lansing Police Department. And when I say just started, he just started. Today is his first day in uniform. Before starting the Mid-Michigan Police Academy in January, Cam was a PACE officer for the East Lansing Police Department for 5 months. In his spare time, he enjoys golfing, snowboarding, and weightlifting. Please help me in welcoming both of these individuals to the East Lansing Police Department.
thank you, gentlemen. Thanks a lot. Okay, moving to the consent agenda. Mr. City Manager, please.
4.1. Okay. Set a public hearing for July 15th, 2025 to consider a substantial amendment to the City of East Lansing Community Development Block Grant Program. 4.2, set a public hearing for July 15th, 2025 to consider minor amendments to the East Lansing Community Development Block Grant Citizens Participation Plan. 4.3 is approve the Local Development Finance Authority fiscal year 26 budget. 4.4 is approve a lane closure for Hawk Island Triathlon on Harrison Road from Mount Hope to Forest Road on June 1st, 2025, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. 4.5 is approve a memorandum of understanding between the City of East Lansing and the East Lansing Public Schools to establish an emergency ingress-egress from Emerson Park through an existing sidewalk and parking lot of Red Cedar Elementary School, and authorize city manager to sign. 4.6, approve a memorandum of understanding between East Lansing Public School District and the City of East Lansing regarding the use of Hannah Community Center as a temporary evacuation location, and authorize the city manager to sign. 4.7 is approve the ratification of emergency purchase of an AccuSonic 8510 Plus replacement flow meter for the Water Resource Recovery Facility, WRRF, in the amount of $57,601.35, and authorize city manager to sign. 4.8 is approve the Ninth Amendment or addendum to the contract for services and use of school facilities agreement with East Lansing Public Schools for $60,372.50, and authorize city manager to sign. 4.9 is approve a contract with Allied Mechanical Services, Inc. for the wharf Davit crane support, fabrication, and installation in an amount of $25,700, and authorize city manager to sign. 4.10 is approve a resolution for a school zone camera pilot program.
May we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Watson, seconded by? Meadows. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion on the consent agenda passes unanimously. Having adjourned the matter 5.1, we then move to the business agenda. Item 6.1, consideration of the fiscal year 2026 budget, tax rate, and fee schedule resolution. Ms. Kincaid.
Good evening, Council. Audrey Kincaid, CFO. Tonight we have the fiscal year 2026 budget resolution for Council to adopt this evening. The resolution that I have included in the agenda item has several of the changes that were discussed a couple meetings ago with city managers' general fund deficit reduction plan. So those have already been incorporated into the draft resolution document attached to the agenda. Over the course of the last couple months, we've had the 2 budget work sessions, we've held a budget town hall, and then we had the public hearing where we've discussed the budget ad nauseum. So feel free to ask any additional questions or if there's anything else that we need to incorporate in the budget this evening.
Okay, questions for staff?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
I just want to confirm that this particular item has the fund equity reduction of $2,015,945, not the original 3.1 million.
Correct.
Okay. And that's on the budget. Do I ask you questions on the fee schedule as well?
All part of the, yeah, part of the
Okay.
approved resolution. Mhm.
There's a couple of items in the fee schedule. There's a domestic partner fee. Can somebody tell me what that is? We don't charge a fee for people to have domestic partners, I presume.
We do, it's a $30 fee.
Still.
Yes. It follows the marriage licensing fee for the Bingham County.
All right, and a medical marijuana caregiver? we charge a fee so somebody can be a caregiver and use medical marijuana? Okay, and then one question on outdoor seating, because I don't see anything in particular. There's sidewalk with a public right-of-way, it's a $209 fee. Is that for any restaurant, for instance, that might want to put a table out in front of their business? I'm not getting many answers here. Here's my reason
Go ahead,
for
please,
asking.
come on up.
Yep.
Yeah, here we
City
go.
manager, if you can help on any of this, we'd appreciate it, please.
What page were of the
During the
resolution?
periods of March 15th through November 15th, businesses, restaurants can do outdoor dining in the public right-of-way. And there's an application fee, and then there's $50 per chair. And then there's a review process to make sure the seating is set up adequately so that there's a pathway of a minimum of 5 feet for pedestrians to walk through. But yes, there is, as part of the application fee.
Okay, but I thought last year we suspended that fee.
No.
I thought the mayor made that motion.
Not for sidewalk, yeah.
No.
All right, so do we charge, it's one thing to charge a restaurant, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
We're charging coffee shops the same way.
Yes, and it'd be considered the same, yes.
And this is after we've closed Albert Avenue and encouraged everybody to
Well,
use the sidewalks for those purposes.
Some of those businesses are charged that fee that come out there as part of their special use permit.
All right, well, I think we can take a look at that at some other point. But with regard to the domestic partner fee and the medical marijuana caregiver fee, I'd like to make a motion to eliminate those fees.
Well, do you want to do that via an amendment to a main motion on the passage of the budget?
When
maybe?
it comes up.
Okay, and I'll support that when you get to that in lieu of an answer. As we've already made clear, I mean, this is a document that can be modified in the future as we get additional data one way or the other. So, other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I want to just check. Thank you for putting some of the material together that I requested last week, and I'm curious if that is on the city website anywhere, or
Not yet, it will be.
it will be.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can queue those up, or if that would be unexpected for our audio visual folks.
It may be.
Okay.
You want me to email it to them?
Whatever's easy. I just think, since the budget has been introduced and even prior, when did we have the 5-year forecast presentation? Was it January? February. Okay. There's just a couple of big picture points that I think are important, and there's a lot of, I think, places where we need to continue to talk about historically what the city has mobilized over the last, we'll say, 10 to 15 years. Because I know a lot of times residents poke at, well, what have you done on employee health care or retirement plans? Is there any history of a Parks and Rec millage in the past? And that's some of the pieces that I would love, if there's an ability to bring up these slides so you can get a visual. Or if you want to start speaking to if you want to start with the timeline in terms of some of the things that we've.
Sure. So there's been a lot of work over the past couple decades about retiree health care. So when we pull that up, there's going to be quite a few bullet points about retiree health care. And changes have been made to union contracts as those become available and as they're negotiated into those contracts where new hires are not guaranteed retiree health care. And then as the workforce ages out and they do retire, so some people still continue to have retiree health care. So I think if you go to the third slide, that kind of shows this timeline. This one. So then additional things that have happened are that retirees that are leaving the city are still able to go on our health insurance, but they still have to contribute what they were paying when they left employment. So the city actually has pretty good health insurance at a low cost to employees, but there has been costs to the employees in the past, and so they have to continue to pay that as a retiree. So you have some people that are guaranteed full coverage of retiree health care, some people that have to pay a little bit, and then you have newer employees that will have to, will not have that eligibility to be on our health insurance. A couple of the other things that we've done is there was a major overhaul to the retirement plans in the city. So there used to be defined benefit plans for all groups, and that has been kind of rolled back. So then there was defined contribution plans, and those have been further rolled back. And so then there was a change to the hybrid plan. So all of our new hires go into hybrid plans except for our police and fire employees. But those police and fire defined benefit groups have different multipliers, different benefits, different eligible wages. So even those plans have been adjusted over time to accommodate some of our pension issues. Obviously, we talk a lot about the income tax and the benefits that we've received from that. So that was put on the ballot in November 2017, and that went into effect in 2019. So we're still in the midst of collecting our income tax. The library millage was previously approved, but then came back up for renewal in November of 2022. So voters vote for 1 mil, but then City Council can also levy 1 mil on behalf for the library. And then we're discussing having a Parks and Rec millage. So I just have that out there for the kind of the future discussion.
And I just, in terms of this point of reference is, because I know there's been some critiques, like what have we taken seriously in this budget in terms of looking at the structural deficit that has been discussed throughout the budget process. Now, specifically, when we talk about a structural deficit, and I know you all covered this during the town hall, but just because repetition is always key for me, is general fund dollars come from where?
Majority is from property tax millage and from state shared revenue, so our portion of state sales tax.
Okay. And then the other types of funds are fixed funds that are not flexible dollars that can be cross-pollinated, for a lack of spring pollination is key.
Yep, so all of our individual funds are created that way because they have dedicated revenue that is for that specific purpose of that fund.
Now, if we can go to the
Previous
slide
one.
before that looks at the projections, if we do nothing,
yeah,
we would be dipping into the fund balance that we currently have that helps us maintain our credit rating. And if I'm reading this correctly, is it the blue line?
The bottom blue line was from our forecast conversation.
So if we do nothing with our budget situation, we're underwater, what is that, 2029, halfway through, or 2030?
Pretty close,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so those are some additional points that I just want to, again, as part of the public dialogue, I think it's important for us to have that conversation. And then I just want to, I think I'll leave it there, but I know in terms of, none of this is easy. There is, even outside of the 5-year forecast we were presented back in February, there's additional uncertainty because revenue sharing is never a sure bet in this state. Communities have consistently taken a hit by the state of Michigan, and that's only going to become more challenging because of the federal cuts that the state is currently facing. So not to be a Debbie Downer, but that's the gal I am tonight. Okay, I'll stop there and cede to my colleagues for additional
Any
questions.
other questions for staff at this point?
I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What report did we get back regarding the overtime for that EMS coordinator position?
It would reduce overtime partially, but it would not be equal to the value of the position. I think when we talked about it, it was in the $30,000 range, 25 to 30?
Yeah, it was around 25.
Okay.
So 25 to 30, and the position was $135,000.
Correct.
So that's about $100,000.
Yeah, cost.
Okay, and a police position is $90,000.
Yeah, with benefits, $95,000.
$95,000. And we're still filling the police positions.
that in this budget, yes.
Thank you.
Anything else? I therefore move that we approve the fiscal year 2026 budget, tax rate, and fee schedule resolution as stated in the record, with the deletion of the items for domestic partner and medical marijuana caregiver.
Mayor, I'd like to raise a point of order. I
Sure.
suggest that you withdraw your motion and move the budget as presented, and that we undertake amendments by motion so that we have an opportunity to discuss them.
Okay. I therefore move the passage of the fiscal year 2026 budget, tax rate, and fee schedule resolution as stated in the record.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
I've got a couple of amendments, or a amendment to remove from the fee schedule. I move to remove from the fee schedule the domestic partner fee and the medical marijuana caregiver fee.
Second. Any discussion on that motion
Yes.
to amend?
I'm going to oppose this motion on grounds that we've had weeks to make adjustments like this, and I'm not going to second guess where we got to through that process. If we want to make amendments later in the process, that's fine. I think the day of reckoning is today to adopt the budget, and I'm not in favor of last-minute changes.
If I can respond, this is the night where we make motions. If we don't change what is proposed by just simply calling in or calling our colleagues and not having a motion in a public meeting. So I think this is the appropriate night for us to do this.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion to amend?
Just want to say I support what you're saying, Councilmember Meadows. I have some amendments as well, and I've been used to the process of when we get to this point, this is the time also, our final time to make some amendments. So thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of Mr. Meadows' amendment, please say, well, let's do roll call. Please.
Councilmember Altman?
Nope.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh?
Yes.
Mayor Brookover?
Yes. Motion to amend passes by a vote of 4-1. Other amendments from council members, if any?
Okay, I have another amendment.
Ms. Watson.
For the restaurant fees, there's an annual fee for all restaurants of $200. I would like to make a motion to keep the annual fee at $100 for businesses of 0 to 50 people.
I'll second that.
I have a question on
Please,
these, and
go
then-
ahead.
Is that 0 to 50 capacity or
Yeah,
staff?
Occupancy, yep, you got it.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? I think you all realize I'm against all these fees. And because I'm against all these fees, with respect for your motion, which I'm not going to support the motion because I think overall the fees are appropriate, if any fees ever appropriate, which I don't think they are. So I'm not going to support the motion. Other conversation with regard to this motion to amend?
Oh, yeah, I've got just other discussion. The increase was 100% for restaurants with the occupancy of 0 to 50 people. I think I'm saying that right.
I understand.
Yeah, and that was why I made the motion.
I understand.
That way. Mhm.
The city manager has his hand up.
Did you want to say something,
I
sir?
do, if you would.
Sure.
Just
I was wondering when you were going to wake up tonight. I just,
the fee amendment proposed in the budget represents our actual cost. Fees are supposed to be cost recovery, and the amounts that were established in the recommended fee schedule do that. And so I just wanted to point that out.
thank you. Any further discussion on this? roll call vote on the motion to amend as stated by.
I have one further comment, Mayor.
Please, go ahead.
If I may. So again, this is not the night to be hashing out these details. We have had chances to do this, and we've made amendments that are reflected in what's before us. And so I'm going to oppose all these changes on those grounds.
Okay, so I take that means you're going to vote against every amendment that's proposed.
That is my plan.
Okay, so I understand. I understand your thoughts. Okay, roll call vote on this particular amendment, Ms. Watson's amendment, please.
Councilmember Altman,
Nope.
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh,
No.
Mayor Brookover.
No. That motion fails. Okay, are there other motions to amend the overall budget?
So we don't have any dance halls, am I correct on that?
That's correct.
But we wanted to raise the fee?
We're establishing a fee for our costs.
Okay.
Should a dance hall come into East Lansing.
All right. And I was reading about the downtown businesses, and this isn't a motion, but just trying to wrap my head around the $90,000 annual salary that I was given for police officers. When I looked at the downtown salary breakdown, it said like $195,000. So I'm still just questioning the math of the EMS coordinator position versus the police positions and the amount of police we need in our community.
So it's my understanding in that DDA budget was the cost of a social worker as well as the cost of overtime for Albert Al Fresco during that fiscal year. Heather Pope can add if there was anything else in that number, so it's not just one person. So I'm getting a nod that I'm correct on what I
Okay.
just shared.
And the final thing I'll say, I won't make a motion, but I don't support the charging the businesses by the calls. I haven't heard of that theory before. It's interesting on how it's going to work. And the breakdown that was given still doesn't give the reader that full background of what are the charges that the businesses have incurred. I've just seen whole amounts, but it doesn't tell the story enough. And then when you look at the business choosing the $10 fee, that's double for some. And so it's like a force to go into this agreement about if the police are called and what the charges are. So again, I'm not going to make a motion. I see how it is, but I'm going to point that out for the record.
Okay, well, I will make a motion. I make a motion that we amend this budget to delete all fees upon businesses as set forth, on business relative to police calls, et cetera, as set forth in this budget. Do I have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay. Discussion with regard to this motion.
What does that mean then for what the DDA is supporting around police?
The DDA would still be making the contribution, I think, that they've committed to make.
But the businesses wouldn't incur those charges based on calls to their vicinity of their restaurants, but they wouldn't pay a single fee. Is that correct?
The licensing framework that has been in existence for some years, in which the city manager has modified after several months of work, would be extinguished. Any further discussion on that motion? Can we have roll call on that motion to amend, please?
Councilmember Altman,
Nope.
Councilmember Meadows,
No.
Councilmember Watson,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh,
No.
Mayor Brookover.
Yes. Okay. Any other motions relative to the budget?
Are we only doing the fee schedule?
No, we're doing everything. Yeah.
The big old book.
I thought your main motion only had the fee rates
No, the main motion
And
was,
tax rates and fee, that's what I thought the main motion was.
no, that motion we just talked about was a motion to amend the main motion, which I made.
Well, yeah, I know that. I know what I just voted on, but I'm talking about the original main motion.
No, the original main motion was pursuant to the discussion between Councilmember Altman and I in terms of how he wanted to go about it, and rather than amend it at the start, he wanted to make a motion, have someone make a motion to pass the entire budget, which I did, and I believe the record will reflect that, unless I missed something here. But
I just heard it with my ear.
okay, all right. So we're back to the main motion as has been amended. Any further discussion on the main motion, which is to pass the overall budget with the amendment that has been made?
Just clarification, the charges to the businesses for the police is going to go into the police budget.
Mr. Bellman?
That is correct.
Okay, any other questions regarding the main motion as amended? Okay, could we have a roll call vote, please, on the main motion as amended, please?
Councilmember Altman,
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh,
Yes.
Mayor Brookover.
Yes, motion passes unanimously. We move ahead to item 6.2, consideration of the fiscal year 2026 Community Development Block Grant CDBG budget.
Good evening, Council. Matt Apostle, Community and Economic Development Specialist here at the City of East Lansing. Tonight, I'm here to answer any questions you have related to the fiscal year 2026 Community Development Block Grant budget. The day after the May 13th, 2025 public hearing on this budget, HUD did announce the fiscal year 2026 CDBG formula allocations. The announcement stated that East Lansing will receive $401,425 in CDBG dollars in fiscal year 2026. This is $19,995 less than their allocation in fiscal year 2025. Given that East Lansing's CD Advisory Committee budgeted off of the fiscal year 2025 allocation, their recommendation is to decrease all of the allocations, excluding admin, proportionally. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for staff? Do we have a motion?
I have a question.
I'll move we approve the 2026 Community Development Block Grant budget.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
You noted that this budget is $19,000 less than it was last year. I'll just note that it's about $1 million less than the first budget for CDBG that I got to vote for, so.
Ms. Watson?
Any further discussion on ceilings in the future for grant applicants?
Say that one more time.
Any more discussion on ceilings, on caps for minimum requests? I don't know if that's on, but.
Yes, I heard you this time. So in years past, we've put in the application that there is a recommended amount for you to apply for based on the type of applicant that you are. Particularly, this comes up with the public service applicants. This year, the public service cap is going to be $60,213, and we frequently have applicants come in requesting $50,000. And considering we usually fund between 5 and 10 public service applicants, that's an unrealistic, likely request. So with that in mind, I think we just need to be more intentional about making that more highlighted in our applications and perhaps in our marketing of the applications being open, what we're recommending applicants will typically receive in years past.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions for staff on this one? Do we have a motion?
You did?
We do have a motion already.
Yeah,
Moved and
seconded.
seconded? Okay. Could we have a roll call vote on this motion, please?
Councilmember Altman,
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh,
Yes.
Mayor Brookover.
Yes, motion passes unanimously. We then move on to item 6.3, consideration of the 2026-2031 Capital Improvements Program. Staff or city manager?
So this document is just embodies all of the proposed capital improvements for the next 5 years. Those that are being funded in fiscal year '26 is represented in the budget. And so by the state law, the council needs to approve a resolution approving the capital improvement plan, and then we send it on to the planning commission to share with them those documents and obtain their input.
I move we approve a resolution to approve the City of East Lansing Capital Improvement Program 2026 to 2031 at a City Council regular session of May 27th, 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Meadows. Is there any discussion on this motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Next item is item 6.4, adoption of ordinance 1543, amendments intended to be corrections and clarifications to Chapter 50, zoning, and Chapter 32, signs of the City of East Lansing Code of Ordinances.
Thank you, Mayor. Landon Bartley, Principal Planner. You had a public hearing for this request or this proposed set of amendments on May 13th. We received very few public comments. In fact, none. But we had a significant, I would say, lengthy discussion about some of the amendments and what's proposed. These are all intended to be, as I mentioned, clarifications and corrections, not policy changes. I'm happy to answer any specific questions, but I also wanted to note the earlier request during public comment that the Building Board of Appeals is interested in the council delaying a vote on the amendments proposed to Chapter 32, the sign ordinance, and my understanding is not. They have no interest in delaying a vote on the proposed changes to Chapter 50, the zoning ordinance, but certainly that would be at the pleasure of council. I'd love to answer questions about what's proposed if you have any.
Questions for staff?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So I would like to honor the request from the BBA because some of those sign ordinance changes stem from an appeal that they heard, so I think it makes sense to have them review it, and they've asked to do that. I'd rather not split this into two motions because I think that may complicate things. Do you have any concerns if we just refer the whole ordinance to the BBA for their review, specifically the sign ordinance? Are you concerned about the delay?
No, I don't think there's any specific urgency except that we think all the changes should be implemented as soon as possible. But that said, there's no project waiting for these ordinance changes. I don't think it would hurt anything to delay a short amount of time. I would suggest perhaps putting a time limit on that request, though.
And I would also ask that you, if you're able to, that you join them at the BBA at their next meeting to take them through and hear their feedback on that issue.
I hope so.
Thanks.
I move we adjourn this agenda item to the next regular meeting following the next meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
You mean to defer, right?
Mayor, if I have a suggestion.
Sure.
Friendly amendment. Would you consider replacing defer with refer to the Building Board of Appeals?
Yeah, well, I didn't say defer, I said
I know.
adjourned. So I'm happy to replace the word adjourn with the word refer, which is a better word.
Okay.
So I changed my motion accordingly with the friendly amendment. So Mr. Meadows, the motion is to refer it.
To the housing, to the Building Board of Appeals?
Yes.
Yep.
Any further discussion on that motion, as convoluted as I've now made it?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Was there a time frame in that? I think Landon had requested some.
Immediately following the next planning.
Whenever we get it
Or the
If I may, I think I heard the next regular council meeting following the next scheduled meeting of the Building Board of Appeals. Is that accurate?
Well, I didn't say scheduled meeting because it's my understanding that sometimes the Zoning Board of Appeals doesn't have regular monthly meetings, and that's what I'm sort of intuiting here. So, Mr. City Attorney, I kind of hesitate to put a specific date in there. But I don't know if I'm doing this according to Hoyle or not, or Roberts, or whoever. Is the motion clear to the council, kind of, sort of?
Could I check my understanding of it by restating it?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I believe my understanding is your motion is to refer ordinance 1543 to the Building Board of Appeals for review of changes to the sign ordinance.
That would be a better motion. Yeah, that's the way I interpret it. Let's go with that one. I'll take that as a friendly amendment.
Appreciate that.
Okay. So that's the motion we're voting on. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Thanks for your help, Mr. Alderman. Item 6.5, consideration of request from Dale Inman for a site plan approval located at 601 Abbott Road. The applicant's request is to construct a new condo building. Units. The property is zoned RM32 City Center multiple family residential district.
All right, thank you. Grace. Two-unit single condo building. All of those units are proposed to be single bedroom. They range in size from just under 570 square feet to just over 857. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and at their subsequent meeting voted unanimously to recommend approval to City Council. They also granted the applicant a waiver for to request additional parking on site. This zoning district only allows 50% of parking on site unless the Planning Commission grants a waiver. So they also unanimously voted to grant that waiver to allow 18 total parking spaces on site. And 18 of those are located underneath the building, and then the rest is exterior parking. They made this vote after reviewing the context of the proposal, and that included some feedback from the police department that even with the additional parking allowed, they had some concerns about there being adequate parking on site. The project involves an overall decrease in impervious surface area and an increase in the pervious area. They've done some preliminary stormwater calculations that show that this development will result in a decrease in stormwater runoff as opposed to what's there now. The recommended draft motion language that's in the packet has been slightly amended, and I believe Landon passed those out, paper copies to reflect that decrease in stormwater that is shown based on preliminary calculations. So I'm here if you have any questions. I believe the applicant is also here. So.
Council, questions?
I do have a question for the
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Within our packet, we don't have a copy of a draft master deed or bylaws for this condominium project. Do you have those prepared?
Good evening, Council. My name's Dale Inman. We do not have those prepared at this time. Typically, we do those at the time when we're designing the building, and we tie the master deed and the HOA and the bylaws as well as the Exhibit Bs all together while we're designing the building, which will happen over the next 3 to 4 months.
Okay. I think in the past, we've seen those attached when they're available. Apparently, they're not for you. Within this master deed and the bylaws, what are you proposing to provide with regard to rental of the units?
Whatever is allowed by the ordinance. We expect our main customers to buy the condos to be alumni that will come back for maybe 10 or 15 basketball games and football games. We think that's our number one owner. Second will be probably young professionals, maybe a young professor from the university. And then our third group, we think, will be empty nesters because the units are relatively small. So we don't anticipate rental units, and we're not gearing it to that. We don't expect student housing here.
I wouldn't expect it either, but I will note that virtually every condominium master deed and bylaws that we have reviewed provide specifically for a process within the association for approval of rental or disapproval of rental. And having it not in front of us is a problem for me.
We will do that.
Where are we at procedurally on this at this point? You were expecting a vote tonight?
You can, for the site plan review, the ordinance only requires a public hearing at Planning Commission. But if you don't feel comfortable voting on this tonight, we can certainly bring it back at a subsequent meeting.
Okay, other questions from council? Yes, sir.
I just have one more question for you. I mean, are you starting construction, next week, or?
No, we'll need probably 3 or 4 months to design the building and get it ready for submittal for a building permit. And then about 12 months of construction after that.
Okay, thanks.
I hesitate to mention this, but since you're considering whether to vote tonight, unfortunately, I'm out of town next Tuesday visiting grandchildren out of state, and I would hate to postpone that, but I understand.
It won't be next week.
Okay.
And so you're anticipating that the Spartan football team makes
And the basketball team.
a big recovery this fall in order to some of these?
We're expecting that.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I always like to try to understand the economics here. Dr. Altman.
I have a couple of questions for the applicant, if I may.
Please.
First of all, I want to echo my concern about rentals in the condo. I think owner-occupied condos would be terrific, just terrific. But if an investor comes in and buys a bunch of them and rents them out, that could be a real problem for those that remain. And we've seen that play out in other condo developments. And so that's sort of my input on that. I have a question about stormwater and a question about bicycle parking. And I'll start with bicycle parking first. So you note that you're a little underparked there, and so you're making an effort to potentially attract bicycle commuters. I believe I read that in the packet.
Well, I think one of the planning commissioner members felt we were underparked at 35 parking spaces.
Okay.
They're all one-bedroom units.
Yep.
And we have 35 parking space, 2 of which will be handicapped. So we have 1 extra space. And in my experience of building apartments and condominiums, that's enough. That will work for us, especially since we're close to restaurants with bike parking as well.
Well, that's good to hear. In terms of the bike parking, as a longtime bike commuter myself, I can tell you that people who actually rely on a bicycle for commuting are not going to make use of bicycle parking that is outside and unsecured. Because my bike is, if I'm relying on it, it's not going to be cheap. I'm not going to leave it outside, and bikes do not do well in the rain and snow. It's not obvious. Cars do just fine in the rain and snow, bikes do not, right? They rust out. So I wonder if you would be amenable to a condition on the site plan that requires a minimum of 16 bicycle parking spots that are in a secure and covered location.
Yes, we would.
That's great. And then the other question I wanted to address is stormwater. You may or may not be aware that we are bedeviled by stormwater in East Lansing, as a lot of localities are. And you are half a block uphill from one of our problem spots, which is at Abbott and Bircham, which floods if you wink at it. I was encouraged to read in your packet that stormwater runoff from the site will not be higher. And my understanding is that one of your calculations suggests that it's going to be about 10% lower. I see 2 letters in the packet from your consultant, CCD, and one suggests that stormwater runoff is going to be about 10% lower, and the other one suggests it's going to be about even. So one question I have for you is, which of those letters should I be reading?
It's actually much closer to even. It's just slightly, it's not 10%. It's something just slightly more than what currently is there. And the reason we're able to get that is that currently there are 30 or 32 parking spaces with asphalt. And what we're doing is we're putting 18 of the parking spaces underneath the building in the basement. So there's only 17 parking spaces after we build our building.
Okay.
With asphalt.
Now, my understanding is that if you know before construction, you can use techniques like infiltration basins and so forth under the construction to help detain water before it runs off. Is that already part of your plan?
It is.
Okay.
It has to be designed yet.
Right, but you have the opportunity to design that because that's the phase of the project that you're approaching.
That's correct.
Okay. So tell me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that you were contacted by staff earlier today to discuss an amendment to one of the conditions that would require a net decrease in stormwater runoff.
That's correct.
Okay. I had one remaining question, I think for staff, potentially. So ELPD reviewed this plan and had a concern about the parking.
Correct.
Could you tell me what the specific concern was?
Just that there may not be enough spaces. After talking with the applicant, they felt that there was adequate
Okay.
parking for the design and the concept of this. But the police department was concerned about adequate parking.
Right, thank you. Those are all my questions, thank you.
So I'm assuming from the inquiries, I'm not trying to cut off anybody else's questions. I'm assuming from the inquiries that the applicant understands some of our concerns and would be willing to work on some of these concerns and come back to us at some point down the line for approval with staff's assistance. Am I reading the council correctly?
Yeah, I would like to move that we just defer it to the 17th of June. And just, if there's a second, I'll tell you why I would like to do that.
Well, let me just check. Was the 17th an okay date for you? Okay, and can you get all these other things researched and taken care of by the 17th in terms of the master deed and all that stuff?
Oh, well, the master deed would be very difficult to do. I mean, we could agree to language that we'll put something in there related, but to complete the entire master deed and the exhibit D, we don't have the drawings ready for an exhibit D.
Okay, so in other words, in response...
We could create language that would, I think, address that.
That would satisfy Mr. Meadows'
With the
concern.
intent of putting language in a master deed.
I'd be happy to sit down with you, and that way, if we go to the 17th, then we'll have some language specific to this that you can agree.
And if you had language that, templates or boilerplate language, we could take a look at it.
I'm sure staff and city manager can get you acclimated with that. So, did you make a motion?
I did, but I don't know if there's a second.
So the motion is to defer until the 17th?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Do you understand what we're doing, sir?
I do.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Thanks for coming tonight, and have a good trip. Okay, next item is item 6.6, consideration of a new contract with Axon Enterprise, Inc. to consolidate and replace 3 separate existing Axon contracts, Fleet/BWC Taser interview room for the amount of $262,503.95 per year for 10 years, and authorize the city manager to sign the contract.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Lieutenant Adrian O'Hario, the Administrative Lieutenant of the East Lansing Police Department. I have a slideshow prepared. I believe she'll put it up here shortly. She goes to full screen here. I'm presenting for the consideration of the bundle contract with Axon Enterprises Incorporated in the amount of $262,503.95 annually to replace 3 existing current contracts that we currently have with Axon Technologies. The new contract will include state-of-the-art technology, training options, and stabilize the costs over a 10-year term. The East Lansing Police Department has already budgeted for this contract within fiscal year 2026. Next slide, this slide right here, please. Currently, the East Lansing Police Department utilizes Axon services with 3 separate contracts. That is your body-worn cameras, October of this year, meaning we will have to renegotiate that if we continue down the path of having separate contracts. A new 5-year contract for the new TASER 10, which is the latest product, would increase the 3 separate contracts to approximately $222,855.94 per year. Additionally, our current TASER, the X26P, which is the one that we currently carry, is past the Axon's consideration and technological lifespan. That TASER was released in 2013. In short, Axon is no longer producing that actual model or selling that model and is currently phasing that model out. Additionally, the body-worn camera and fleet contract, as you can see on the slide, needs to be renewed in 2027. The interview room contract was just signed, so that's a newer contract. All of these contracts forecasting inflation costs. It is expected that by continuing to maintain separate contracts, the cost comparison shows, and we will show you that in a later slide, that we will exceed the cost of the single bundled contract within fiscal year 2028. Additionally, the separate a la carte style of contract that we currently have does not include extra products that Axon will provide us within that bundled contract. So we will be getting more services also, which I will show you. Next slide, please. To maintain good governance and hedge against inflation and rising costs over the 10-year master contract was drafted. The 10-year contract ensures that the East Lansing Police Department will maintain state-of-the-art technology while increasing safety options, training opportunities, while keeping costs as low as possible and creating that financial stability. As you can see highlighted in the slide, there is some renewal of the TASER contract. There will be provided, it will provide extra training options that I will discuss, and then we'll also continue to have the latest products, and that's actually built into the contract that I will discuss as well. Next slide. With the consolidation and the bundle of the Axon contract, in addition to the new TASER body-worn camera, we will receive additional Axon products, services that were previously unavailable under the older contracts. As you can see, more towards the bottom of that slide, all of those additional checks are there, and I can read them off if you require after I'm done presenting here. One of the biggest options is the virtual reality training that we will receive from Axon. We'll receive access to their full library, which will actually help us fulfill some of the MCOL's requirements of continued professional education standards as set forth within the last 2 years by the state of Michigan. Next slide, please. Axon products and services it provides have become part of our modern policing. They are instrumental to the implementation of the 6 pillars of 21st century policing. The body camera and the fleet cameras and the systems that they have help build trust and legitimacy for the police department. Axon provides tools for oversight and for the safety of our officers. We understand that technology advances, and for that reason, Axon has built into the contract hardware refresh schedules to ensure that our officers have access to the newest hardware and the newest software. So as you see, nobody wants to buy a technological product, sit around for 10 years, and have it become obsolete within 2 years. So within the contract, as you can see outlined by the chart on the right, you can see that we will actually get new Axon hardware and firmware software throughout the contract. So we're not just stuck with an old product. One of the biggest highlights is we'll get completely refreshed everything in year 2030. So we'll get new body-worn cameras, new virtual reality headsets, new fleet cameras, new tasers, and a completely new interview room as well. That's just the hardware. In addition to that, we will get new software continuously as that rolls out from Axon. Next slide. This is an overview of the Axon contract. Currently, according to Axon, there are 15 law enforcement agencies within the state of Michigan that are utilizing 10-year contracts. So we are not the first, and we won't be the only one. Additionally, there are 5 prosecuting attorneys that are utilizing 10-year contracts with Axon as well. As we look at the funding, the city will reach its 1-year membership with the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority, or MMRMA, this year as of July 1st. Because it is our 1-year anniversary, this unlocks grant opportunities from MRMA. We did have a meeting on May 22nd and spoke about those grant opportunities, which we're available to apply for as of July 1st. We're happy to report that In the first year alone, we can apply for up to 3 $50,000 grants through MIRMA to cover Axon costs. So potentially we can max out at $150,000 from MIRMA just for that. Additionally, because there is a training product incorporated within this Axon product, that would be the virtual reality, we can also supplement and pay some of the funds towards this contract would be covered by CPE credits or funds from the state as well. So there's different options that we can look at to pay towards that cost. Additionally, for years going forward, the city can also apply for multiple MIRMA WRRF grants the second and the third year as well. The cost does reduce. It goes down from $150,000 to $90,000 on the second year, and then from $90,000 to $60,000 on the third year as well. Additionally, we will continue to look at outside funding sources through grants as well to try to mitigate some of the costs. And again, we'll show you the slide here. Next slide. As previously indicated at the beginning of my presentation, we have already budgeted for this. We've budgeted $250,000 for fiscal year 2026. Utilizing the previously mentioned funding sources, we hope to actually reduce the costs less than what we are currently paying now. Looking to the future, it is forecast that the annual cost of all Axon products, if we stay on the current course, will exceed $330,000 by fiscal year 28. This would not include the extra products as we showed on the previous slide, and for those reasons, we are recommending that the council allow the city manager to to approve and sign the 10-year Axon contract. It should be noted that Axon is part of Sourcewell Competitive Purchasing, which the city is part of, which ensures that the city receives the best Axon rates, and so there isn't much negotiation or discussion over that. Does the council have any questions?
I do have some questions, and maybe they're more properly directed to the city manager. So, is this sent out for a bid?
As was mentioned, Sourcewell is a bidding cooperative.
Okay, so this is the cooperative, and they essentially,
Bid this out, and then we're just writing on their results of their bid.
okay. And do you know, are there other systems like this available?
There may be other systems, but not to the degree and services that are being proposed.
Okay. Other questions?
I have some questions.
Yes?
So when does the contract expire for the other two companies?
If you go, they're all one company, so these are all separate Axon contracts that we're talking about. I believe it's on slide 2. If you go back,
Okay.
that's the one in the upper left corner there.
Yep, and so what does it mean to stop the contract with them?
If we would stop the contract, it would mean different things for individual contracts. So if we stop the contract for Taser, we would not have, we currently would own the Taser products that we have, but we would not get any support, legal support from them, and or warranty support or anything else in regards to purchasing new cartridges or anything like that as we use them. If there is a deployment, again, we wouldn't receive any type of legal coverage or expert to come in and support us for the Taser product. If we were to stop the interview room, then we would not have any video services for the interview room, and we would have to find an alternate service, as mentioned by the city manager. We'd have to find an alternate source for
Or
that.
you're saying there's a contract expiration of 2029?
Correct. That's when that contract would end. And then just answering your question, like if we were to stop those contracts or not renew them as they come up, we would lose those services. And we would have to either find an alternate or just go without.
I think I'm having trouble following. I thought you said there were 3 different contracts and we're trying to merge into one contract. Did I say that right?
Yes, that is correct. And the 3 separate contracts all end at different times.
Are they different companies?
No, it's the same company.
I get it. All right, and so what if we stop after 5 years? What if we want a 5-year contract, not a 10-year?
If we want a 5-year contract, then the cost would go up. Additionally, it was pointed out to me that Axon currently has the Sourcewell contract through December of 2027. So at that point in time, if Axon chooses not to renew with Sourcewell, prices could significantly go up. As we look at the chart that's up there, or maybe it was one of the other ones, but it lists on there, historically speaking, Axon has shown at least a growth at a minimum of 7%, if not much higher, based on their technology products. So again, relying on previous meetings and listening to the mayor, we're looking for some stability here to lock in, and other agencies around the state are all starting to do this.
Okay, my last question for now. Will it, being a part of the East Lansing Independent Police Oversight Commission, there's been concerns about officers turning off their body-worn camera and that there's not good tracking on that. Will this improve it?
I am not aware of any officers intentionally turning off their body-worn camera. That is a trackable feature that we can actually track on the back end. I personally have been a victim of having somebody assault me and my body-worn camera turned off, but that's because my camera was actually hit during the assault. I can't say that this would improve it, but the oversight, part of the 21st century pillars, is definitely there to see when a camera is turned on, when a camera is turned off, and then we would have to go back and look into that. There are mechanisms in place at certain levels to have cameras automatically turn on, but oftentimes there is a human element, and if there is something that goes on and a camera has to manually be turned on, sometimes officers forget.
Right, so intentionally or unintentionally, this doesn't improve the process of the body-worn cameras if they're turned off intentionally or unintentionally. It doesn't improve it. This doesn't change it. That's just my question.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Do we have a motion?
I have a motion, Mayor.
Please.
I move to approve a new contract with Axon Enterprise, Inc. to consolidate and replace 3 separate existing Axon contracts for fleet/body-worn camera, taser, and interview room for the amount of $262,503.95 per year for 10 years, and authorize the city manager to sign the contract.
Do we have a second?
Support.
Okay, seconded by Meadows, moved by Altman. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. We therefore then move to item 6.7, consideration of a one-year contract with Capital City Janitorial LLC in an amount of $26 per hour for janitorial services for City Hall, the Hannah Community Center, the East Lansing Public Library, and the Department of Public Works in a total amount not to exceed the budgeted amount of $676,000, and authorize the city manager to sign.
Good evening, Council. Kathy DeChambeau, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Arts and Government Buildings. Bringing forward this contract, we issued an RFP back in April. We had 10 applicants. We only had 4 that were responsive to the complete RFP. Those were the 4 that were considered. I included the bid tabulation in your AIR. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer any questions about this. The current custodial contractor is Capital City Janitorial, and we went out to bid originally in 2022. They won the bid then. They are local, and they are a woman-owned local business.
Any questions for staff? I
Question.
therefore, go ahead.
Why 1 year?
It has 2 one-year renewals, so it's a 1 year, and then we can come back with 2 more years, which is what we did this past 3 years. So when we bid this out before, it was a 1 year with 2 renewals. The pricing is locked in, though, for the full 3 years.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I will move approval of a 1-year contract with Capital City Janitorial LLC to provide janitorial services for City Hall, the Hannah Community Center, the East Lansing Public Library, and the Department of Public Works at a rate of $26 per hour, not to exceed $676,000, and authorize the city manager to sign.
I second the motion. Moved by Altman, seconded by Brookover. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Any nays? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6.8, consideration of a contract with PK Contracting for the fiscal year 2026 and fiscal year 2027 as-needed pavement markings in an amount of $90,000 and authorize the city manager to sign. Yes, sir. Good to see you again. You haven't been here, I think, for a week or so. Oh, okay.
Good evening, Council. Ron Lacoste, Director of Public Works. What you have before you is consideration of contract with PK Contracting for FY 26-27 as needed pavement markings. If you remember, I sat here last year and talked about a contract with Ingham County to share in this service, and that was going to save us money. So if anybody remembers that, what resulted from that was we're not the only agencies struggling with staffing challenges, and what we found was we were not able to be as controlling of that contract, being kind of second in line for that work, and so we went out for bid for our own contract again, so we could control the work rather than trying to reach through the county. We still intend to look for partnerships down the road, but that one didn't work out, so this is why we're back with our own standalone contract. We received one bid for this project, which isn't surprising because PK dominates this work in the Lansing area. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions on this item? Do we have a motion? I move that we approve a contract with PK Contracting for the fiscal year 2026 and fiscal year 2027 as needed pavement markings in an amount of $90,000 and authorize the city manager to sign.
Support.
Seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.9, consideration of a resolution to execute an amendment to the cost-sharing agreement with Meridian Township and Michigan State University for sewer treatment and authorize the city manager and mayor to sign. Staff. You're back. Oh, okay.
As the mayor stated, before you is consideration of a resolution to execute cost-sharing agreements with Meridian Township and MSU. And what this is the result of the SRF project that I've been up here to talk about many times. As part of that process, we have to prove that we can repay the SRF loan. And so part of that is extending these agreements to the end of that SRF loan to show that we have commitment from MSU and Meridian to share in that cost. In the construction project, it's 26.7% East Lansing, 40% MSU, and 33.3% Meridian Township. The original MSU agreement was signed in 1963, has been amended many times since then with SRF projects and other things, and Meridian Township in 1961 with the same thing there. So these are just formalities to make sure the agreement to pay for the loan extends to the end of the 20-year life of the loan. Any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions? I move that we pass the resolution to authorize the addendum to the sewer contract and agreement of January 17th, 1961, as amended between the City of East Lansing and the Charter Township of Meridian for the purpose of providing sewer service to Meridian Township with the original agreement dated January 17th, 1961, and additionally authorize the resolution to authorize the addendum to the sewer contract and agreement of January 1st, 1963, as amended between the City of East Lansing and the Board of Trustees of Michigan State University for the purpose of providing sewer service to the university with the original agreement dated January 1st, 1963. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from the Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6.10, consideration of a resolution directing the city manager to prepare proposed ballot language for a dedicated Parks and Recreation millage for the city's November election. Mr. Bellman, do you want to speak to this?
I do. Thank you very much. So, first of all, let me address a couple of things. When I put together the proposed or recommended fiscal year 2026 general fund deficit reduction plan, I inadvertently referenced or used terms that said reduce or eliminate general fund contribution to Parks and Recreation Fund. So it's not my intent, as you approved tonight's budget already, to pull the money out automatically, but really to start discussion about identifying alternate revenue source to help sustain Parks and Rec operations. And so I want to recognize and thank all those that sent email communications to the city council. And I just want to pull out some of the references in those emails because I think it's in line with what I'm trying to accomplish. And that is Parks and Recreation are core to our community, quality of life that attracts and retains residents, support community health and wellness. Parks and Recreation programs are a major reason for our choice to live in East Lansing. Specific programs before and after school program, and then Parks and recreational programs are not mere amenities. They are essential services that foster community well-being, provide safe space for our children, and enhance quality of life for all residents. I couldn't agree more. But each year, as was evidenced in a prior slide shared during the budget presentation, the general fund will struggle to have its expenditures live within the resources it gets annually. And so what I recommend and continue to recommend is that the Parks and Rec program present a ballot issue to our residents to dedicate resources to maintain and grow that program and not to rely on our annual budget constraints and be faced with potential cuts if the city council makes those. So I'm looking for a dedicated revenue source, and that's what is being proposed through tonight's recommendation to prepare ballot language that I think would in part address some of the questions that were asked on how many mills, for how long, and for what purpose.
Questions for city manager? Yes, please.
And again, just so everyone, for crystal clarity, this is for your language to be drafted. We are not voting this evening to place it on the ballot.
That is correct.
Okay. 1. 2, in prior city council meetings, we have discussed establishing a fiscal health task force. Do we still plan on doing that?
Yes, I think I presented during the strategic priority update back in March that after the budget was presented, we would assemble that resolution and present it to the city council.
Okay. That's it for me right now.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion? I move we approve the resolution directing the city manager to prepare ballot language for a dedicated Parks and Recreation millage. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second from the Mayor Pro Tem. Discussion.
I think I'm going to jump if I can.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
I plan on supporting this amendment or this motion this evening because this isn't placing it on the ballot. This is one step to do the research on what this could look like and continue a community dialogue. 1. As you also heard, we will be moving forward with a fiscal health task force. There are many challenges ahead, and we have to continue doing our homework with each other to have this discussion, community members and this body as council, and then as our amazing staff has been wonderful through the process as well. So I wanted to share that.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion?
I do. I have some.
Yes, sir,
discussion.
Mr. Meadows.
I'm glad you brought up the financial health team, because we did indicate that that should be done when we adopted our strategic priorities about 1.5 years ago. And had it been done in a prompt manner, we probably already have a report from the financial health team, which would either indicate that this is the way that we need to go or some other way. When we last faced this issue of declining resources in 2015 and 2016, we created a financial health team. It worked for a year, and in that year had multiple public meetings with citizens within the community to discuss the issues that we were facing and get public input and feedback from our citizens as to what they would like to see happen. And one of the things that struck me about their recommendations was one here that highlighted the fact that citizen communications, in order to improve citizen communications, the financial health team recommended more extensive citizen communications on issues like what we are facing with regard to this budget. To me, that's the, instead of drafting a proposed ballot initiative, we should be establishing our financial health team and then waiting to see what they recommend. I think that if we have the same type of professionals, and for what it's worth, the head of that team has now passed away, so he who received the Crystal Award for the work that he performed with regard to this, would not be able to serve, but many of those members are still citizens here in the city of East Lansing, and I'm sure would be willing to participate again. The thing that seems to me to be an issue here is that, some time ago, this idea was presented to the city council, and a consultant made some recommendations as to how we should proceed if we're going to proceed in this manner, and all of those benchmarks have been passed by. So one of those recommendations was to, target Parks and Rec, because of course we all love our Parks and Rec, right? If I tell you, hey, we got to shut down Parks and Rec or cut the budget for Parks and Rec, but here we have the answer to a ballot proposal which will raise taxes and dedicate them specifically, that would be a better way of passing this. That's exactly what we're looking at right now. Because I don't think there is any chance that we're going to cut the budget for Parks and Recreation. That is a budget that I think probably every citizen, if asked, would indicate that they're willing to subsidize it because their children use it, the entire family uses it, grandma uses it, grandpa uses it, everybody uses our Parks and Recreation. It's one of the reasons we're happy to pay taxes in the city of East Lansing. Plus, there's no need. We've cut down, I think, to give credit to the city manager made a proposal early on with staff's, I think, input as to the amount of money that would be necessary to take from the rainy day fund in order to balance the budget this year. And then found $2.5 million that could be reduced. And then found another $1 million or so that could be reduced. So tonight, in the budget that we passed about a $2 million deficit use of fund balance to balance the budget. Last year, and I can read this to you from our budget documents, the fiscal year 2025 amended budget included $5,601,715 of planned use of fund balance. I think you authored this, but estimates for fiscal year 25 are now $406,085. So I have no confidence whatsoever that we're actually going to use $2 million of our fund balance to balance the budget this year. So what is a budget? A budget is a guess. There are certain things that we can predict pretty easily with regard to a budget. If we have a certain number of employees and they have raises scheduled for this particular year, or we have new contracts, we have a way of predicting pretty clearly what the cost of those personnel services are going to be. Not always, because sometimes healthcare, goes through the roof. But with regard to the rest of the budget, it's our best guess as to what we're going to do. And even when we approve a capital improvements program like we did this evening, things happen. And one of those capital improvement program projects that is scheduled for this year may get pushed off for another year. So I think that this is very premature in terms of how we should be approaching this matter. Again, I say, let's get to work on the financial health team and get that in place. Give them the room to take a look at our resources and make a recommendation that we can go forward with. As I mentioned before, they were at it for a year. The result was 2 tries to get the income tax passed because that was one of their recommendations. And it was the result of community education as to why we were able to do this and get it accomplished. I think that's something that is really missing with regard to this particular proposal at this particular time. And so I think the public needs to know why I would vote against this. That is not to say that at some point in the future I might be supportive of going to the ballot for additional funds for the city of East Lansing, but I don't think we've done the legwork to get this done at this point in time. So I'll be voting no on this motion.
Okay, other discussion? Dr. Ullman?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about this idea that the budget is smoke and mirrors, which is what I was reading into my colleagues' comments. The budget is not smoke and mirrors. I wanted to ask the city manager, if he could, to explain how we got from a $5 million projected use of fund balance to $400,000 worth of use of fund balance in fiscal '25.
Sure. The reduction that took place in fiscal year '25 updated budget assumptions included a reduction of $1.9 million in transfer to other funds. This was due in part to the elimination of the $500,000 that we were budgeting from general fund for major and local streets for the signals at Trowbridge that were replaced by a $2.4 million grant that Senator Singh and our representatives were able to put into the state's fiscal year '25 budget. We also deferred capital improvements that were in the budget, about $1.2 million, until this fiscal year, which we're still talking about what are those capital improvements and the need to bond for those. So that expense is not in fiscal year '26 budget. And then finally, $1.7 million estimated in savings from vacancies, primarily in public safety. And it's our goal to fill those law enforcement positions so that we can address the noise and traffic concerns that have been brought before this council for the last several months, if not longer. And so, yes, we can say we reduced the deficit in fiscal year '25, but we did it systematically and we did it based on vacancies. One of the charges this council gave me when the '24-25 strategic priorities were prepared and approved is to address the staffing in this organization that was at a all-time low and put a lot of strain on the staff members that were still remaining. And so we've been working on that and filling them, and we've been evaluating positions that we believe we don't need, and in fact, some of those were proposed to be cut in the '26 budget, which you approved tonight. The election coordinator position was around for a year and a half, too, that was not filled during one of our busiest election years. So if it wasn't filled then, we don't need it. We proposed to eliminate. We eliminated the dedicated admin position in the police department dedicated to credential or certification, and we can do it with other staff. So we are looking for ways to reduce the budget. In fact, the FY26 budget, a lot of departments stepped up and offered up reductions prior to that final document being prepared and presented to you. So we continue to work on it, but I can't say that we can find $2.6 million, and that's not all of general fund support of Parks and Recreation. And then we also have $1.5 million in the DPW services in maintaining Parks and Rec. That's not even in that 2.6 contribution for programs and services. It's an issue that we're going to have to face. It's an issue that we have to have serious conversations on how do we address it. We did it through charging rent to lands occupied by our parking facilities. We did it by eliminating some new or proposed positions, but we're not all the way there. And I think the concern is that the fund balance we have will be dissolved much more quicker than we expect. We had one-time revenues of ARPA that also masked, in my opinion, this structural deficit. And yes, we can activate the financial health review team. They, back in 2017, recommended a Parks and Rec dedicated millage. It was 0.8 something. And so there was also a recommendation for a dedicated sidewalk, street millage that never got put before our residents. So yes, we could activate that, but I don't think the conversation is going to change much. The city's limited on how it can generate revenues.
So if I could, thank you for the explanation and the context. What I will add from my perspective is that given the very limited cushion that we have, financial cushion, I believe we need to aim to be balanced for fiscal 27. Okay. That means that people writing the fiscal 27 budget need to know that about 8 months from now, actually 7 months from now, okay, which is not a lot of time. And right now we have a structural deficit that is several $million dollars, and we have to chart a course between here and there. And I think if we have an opportunity to find a stable, long-term source of funding for Parks and Rec, I think we should all want that. I certainly want that. The funding situation for the city isn't going to get any less bleak. We're facing pressures from at the federal level, we're facing pressures at the state level, and a long-term dedicated source of funding is, I believe, something that we should all want. I also want to make a couple of other general comments in keeping with the Mayor Pro Tem's idea that we need to sort of repeat some of these ideas. Our budget is pretty optimized. Okay, the city has been under financial stress since at least the 2008-2009 financial crisis, and before then. And so a lot of the air bubbles have been squeezed out, and people have been doing more with less for a long time. And sooner or later, we're going to end up having to do less with less. Okay, that's where we're headed. The budget is also online. Okay, it's all online, and we need help. Okay, if somebody wants to go into the budget and find $2 or $3 million worth of cuts and give us a list of what those cuts are, that would be terrific. Okay, give us specific help. All the information you need is out there. Okay, it's all online. That's one of the reasons we put it there. So we have a situation where we have limited revenues and we have to decide what to do about our expenditures, and we have to decide soon. And the city manager has described this as an option. I think it's an appropriate thing to consider. And so I will support the motion.
Other discussion? I'd like to speak to the motion. First of all, I think I got elected to make decisions. And we're going to be confronted with some difficult decisions. I respectfully disagree with some of our council members who have indicated some great concern for some disaster financially happening at some point in the future. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I have a more, I guess, moderate view of the world than that. But the current situation must be dealt with. We're not, this is not a motion to actually put something on the ballot. This is something to create a variable where we can put this on the ballot and ask the people whether they want to support this, given the total matrix of financial issues we confront. So I think this is a different place than any time before, and I think we have time to have people give us advice in terms of a financial health team. But we've been confronted with what I call a rogue variable. And the rogue variable is obviously the BWL situation, which I'm not going to get into detail because we're still involved in litigation. I have some hope that we'll be able to sort our way through that. But so the reality is, I believe my financial fiduciary duty to the taxpayers is to consider all alternatives in a timely manner. And so I view this as putting ourselves in a position to consider one of the alternatives in a timely manner. There are other things going on here in terms of that litigation. There are other things going on both in the state and federal context that may change things. But I simply think that we need to move ahead to give ourselves possible alternatives before we make final decisions on some of this stuff. And I will just say this. I mean, I've read all the emails and I understand the importance of Parks and Recreation, and you know, it's kind of like talking about, you know, apple pie and motherhood. But the reality is it's important to all of us, and we have to make some decisions as to how we best carry that on, and perhaps the ballot proposal is a way to actually insulate those services from the back and forth of budget vagaries in the next 10 years. I mean, that's one possibility. So I simply think that this is a wise decision to move ahead, to see what the language would look at, to have a timely consideration of this at the council level. And having said all of that, we just passed a budget that included the recommendations to keep in the budget the recreation outdoor things that we've always had. So nothing changed. The budget includes those services. I suspect that the budget will include those services in the future. The reality is, how do we pay for those particular services? And this is one possibility. So that's why I'm voting for it. And in the end, I'm not saying how I'm going to vote on this, but in the end, I kind of feel like I kind of trust the people on some of this stuff. So that's why I'm voting for it. Yes, ma'am.
First, a question. So if it were passed today, when would we see the language again, and how many times would we talk through the language? The ballot language. What would be the time frame?
So if you adopt this resolution, the ballot language, depending on the availability of the city attorney, will be brought back either at the June 3rd meeting or the June 17th meeting.
And what's the deadline again?
The deadline to have it to the city clerk is, I think, August 12th.
August 12th, and so June. So I was around during the income tax, the city income tax when it first failed, and then when it passed. And so I appreciate Councilmember Meadows' points about, I mean, we can't just ignore the temperature of the community. I mean, we can, but they elected me, and so I'm serving my community. And most of those emails were no's, asking us not to go in this direction. And so then the warmth, they're not even, they don't seem warm. Like they maybe seem cold to the idea of this proposal. And so because they're also going to be the ones voting for it, we can put it on the ballot, but we need majority to vote for it. We didn't bring them along as we should have if this was something serious. To be taken into consideration so that it could be successful. So again, I'll be voting no, but another thing I want to comment on along my no is I'm used to hiring freezes. So at the health department, when there was a possible deficit, people start talking about hiring freezes because your staff personnel takes up a good portion of the dollars that the city receives. And so I'm surprised that it's even been used as, oh, the community's talking about traffic and noise, so we must fill all these police positions. Police show up after something has been committed. We need something more fluid that can be addressed, whether or not we have 10 police or 5. Like, it can't just be the excuses, oh, the positions aren't filled, so we can't address traffic and noise. We have to have better ideas for that, and also safer ideas for community members, besides just that we need to increase police budget, to increase the staffing, and then that's going to solve the problem. And I'm not even sure statistically, if you look up that data, if that shows to officially solve the problem. And the other thing I want to mention is I just feel like it's hypocritical of this council body to ask the people to vote to give more money when we had a choice on our attorneys. We went with a brand new law firm for us that was around $200,000 or more per year. That's where it's going to land us at. So it's like when the decision is on, and like I hear that person who came up for public comment to talk about what suits us. And it's just like, how do you defend on one hand taking advantage of voting in favor of an increase to dollars, but then on another hand, making people feel a certain type of way about where we're at, and that therefore the only solution is putting this millage on. And so just again, I don't think it's a good setup. It's the people that we do need, and they're not even warm to the idea based on those that have written in and those that have shown up. So I won't be voting in support.
Okay, any further discussion?
One piece.
Yes, please, go ahead.
One piece that has been neglected to mention is the city of East Lansing, from my research, had a Parks and Rec millage from 1996 to 2016. That hasn't been referenced at all. I know those that have been in this community know that after 20 years, at that period, they didn't go for a renewal. But again, this is about putting facts out there for us to have a community conversation on where we want to go.
Could I respond to that? Actually, in 1996, we passed a millage that was a recreation millage to construct recreation facilities. And that's what that was. And yes, it expired after that period of time. We passed another one a couple of years later for the same purpose, to build soccer fields, to do all those things. It was not supporting generally the budget of the Parks and Recreation Department. In fact, I think when we first proposed it, we didn't have a Parks and Recreation Department. We were still under SCAP or one of the other organizations that was providing recreation services to the city.
Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Altman?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
No.
Councilmember Watson?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh?
Yes.
Mayor Brookover?
Yes, motion passes 3-2. Moving on to item 6.11, consideration of a resolution to provide required notice to Gianmarco Mullins and Horton PC pursuant to contract for legal services. Mr. Bellman?
So as directed by City Council at your meeting on the 13th, this is the proposed contract that was being brought back specifically for Keller Toma for labor, I'm sorry.
This is the notice of termination.
Yes,
I
thank
move,
you.
I move we approve the resolution to provide notice of termination to the Gianmarco law firm. Is there a second?
For the date, can we amend that to indicate to midnight, June 30th? Because the other contract is to take place at midnight that night, so.
If you want to make a motion to amend, Mark, go ahead. I think the resolution speaks for itself.
Well, I'm referring only to your motion. I don't know about
I
the
understand,
resolution.
and I made my motion, and I'm not willing to amend it at this point. So if you want to make a motion to amend it, go ahead.
There's no motion yet.
I'm sorry?
It hasn't been seconded.
You're right, it hasn't been seconded. Is there
I'll
a second?
second.
Second from Alderman? Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, I'll move to make this motion or this termination effective at midnight, June 30, 2025.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion to amend? Roll call vote on the motion to amend, please.
Councilmember Altman,
No.
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh,
No.
Mayor Brookover.
No. Motion to amend fails. Can we have a roll call motion or roll call vote with regard to the main motion now, please?
Councilmember Altman,
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh,
Yes.
Mayor Brookover.
Yes, motion passes unanimously. Item 6.12, consideration of contract for legal service, labor and employment law with Keller Toma PC, and that the mayor be authorized to sign. Do we have a motion? Well, Mr. Bellman, do you want to comment on this?
So this one is the drafted agreement. There's one recommended change that I'd like to make, and that is relations to the workers' compensation insurance within statutory limits and $500,000 per incident. Set a communication out earlier today that for Rosati and this one, prior contracts just reference whatever the statute required.
I have a motion, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I move approval of contract for labor services for labor and employment law with Keller Toma PC, and authorize the mayor, the city manager to sign?
The mayor needs to sign this.
Authorize the mayor to sign.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have an amendment. Page 4 of the contract, Section 10, insurance, subsection B, workers' compensation. I move to change the amount of $1 million to $500,000 per the city manager's recommendation.
Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second.
I'm sorry, I'll second.
Okay, second by Watson. Discussion on the amendment?
Yeah, question, because I thought I heard Robert say that he just wanted this to read that whatever the state requirement is, rather than a specific amount. Am I misinterpreting what you said?
Both firms have provided a certificate of insurance for $500,000, so that's why I was recommending
Got it,
reduce to
okay.
the $500,000.
That's all I thought.
What are you talking about, state requirement? Did you misspeak yourself?
No, so there, I referenced what our RFP indicated. So the RFP indicated that workers' disability compensation insurance in compliance with Michigan statutory limits. And when I reached out to Laura Jedovich, she indicated that there's no minimum dollar amount required by law. The coverage must be sufficient to provide benefits required by law.
So it's our choice.
It is your choice.
Okay. Further discussion on the motion to amend. I'm going to vote against this. I don't, my experience is that $1 million is readily available, and I think the more coverage there is, the better off we are as the client. I can't pretend to guess at all the possible permutations of potential liability. But certainly, I think $1 million is a standard amount of coverage, so.
Can the city manager remind me what the current contracts hold?
The current contracts read the contractor shall provide that, or the contract shall provide that contractor shall obtain and maintain full force and effect during the entire term of this agreement policy of comprehensive general liability insurance, including professional errors and omission, with limits of liability of not less than $2 million in workers' disability compensation insurance in compliance with Michigan statutory limits.
So the current firms are carrying $2 million.
General liability, workers' comp is not specified.
Is not specified.
Right. And these policies are carrying 2 and 4 for labor and 3 and 5 for general law and prosecution.
Okay, further discussion on the motion to amend. Could we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Councilmember Altman?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh?
Yes.
Mayor Brookover?
No. Okay, back to the main motion as amended. It was moved and seconded, correct? Yeah, back to the main motion. Any further discussion? Main motion, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Altman?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh?
Yes.
Mayor Brookover?
Yes. Okay, I think that was Keller-Toma, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now we go to 6.13, consideration of contract for legal services, general municipal legal and prosecution with Rosati, Schultz, Jopich, and Armbugler, PC, and authorize the mayor to sign. Do we have, well, go ahead, Mr. City Manager, I'm sorry.
So again, very similar. These were the contracts drafted based on your input from the council, sent off to the attorneys. They've signed off. The only issue, again, is the $500,000 for workers' comp.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I will move approval of a contract for legal services for general municipal legal and prosecution services with Rosati, Schultz, Jopich, and Armbugler, PC, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Meadows. And Mr. City Manager, you've now confused me. So in this particular one, I understand there was a change that was made to put in the amount of $500,000 on the workers' comp?
That is correct.
On this one?
On this one, too.
Okay.
It was also communicated by Rosati et al., Jopich in particular, that the excess umbrella coverage applies to the workers' comp. So they have $3 million in excess. They were recommending to reduce the $1 million to $500,000.
Okay. I'll make a motion to amend the main motion to retain a workers' comp basic limit of $1 million. Do we have a second to the motion to amend? Hearing no second, we move back to the main motion.
Second, I just keep it. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. My reasons have been set forth previously. Any further discussion on this amendment?
Mayor, I have a comment. The city
Sure.
manager may wish to address. I yield to the city manager if I could.
So
It
the
all-
contract
He didn't
already
mean that literally.
speaks to the $1 million requirement. The contract before you has the $1 million for workers' comp.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said something different when I asked you the
No,
question.
so I'm recommending that that be reduced to $500,000 because they indicated their excess umbrella in the $3 million amount would also apply to the workers' comp coverage.
Okay, but the main motion was with regard to the contract that was tendered to us, correct?
That's
Correct.
right, with the $1 million.
With the $1 million. Okay, I withdraw my motion to amend.
So I have a motion to amend, Mayor. On page 5 of the contract, section 10, insurance, subsection B, workers' compensation. I move to amend the $1 million figure to read $500,000.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. I'm going to oppose that for the same reason as on the last contract. Any further discussion on the motion to amend? Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Altman?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh?
Yes.
Mayor Brookover?
No. Moving back to the main motion. Any further discussion on the main motion as amended?
Discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, sorry everybody, I was checking out a little bit. I didn't get my break today, but I know I'm going to get it soon. I think I will, so I can eat a little bit more. So since I did vote to stop the contract with our current law firm, I will be voting in favor of this firm. I appreciated the general law individuals that we did meet. As I said, I do think the price was high, and it's not a good time to have made that decision, but this body of council did. And I expect going forward that our new prosecutor will be giving us communications that this council has been seeking or said that they weren't receiving. So I do expect to be able to follow our prosecutor's process. And I also expect that some of the comments made previously by someone that works at the public defender's office about some information that the former prosecutor was not aware of, that this person will be aware of it, and that hopefully we'll also see the changes that this community deserves when you are prosecuting people who are poor. Thank you.
Mr. City Manager, I just have a question. I want to confirm, because we've had these floating specimens around. So on this particular contract, the malpractice basic coverage has been raised to $3 million, with an overage or excess or umbrella policy of another $2 million. Is that correct?
1 second.
It's the last item on the insurance matrix. Mr. Allman, do you have that in front of you readily?
I do.
Could you answer my question, please?
So paragraph D of insurance reads malpractice/professional liability insurance coverage in the minimum amount of $5 million with an applicable umbrella insurance policy of $3 million. And then paragraph E reads excess and/or umbrella coverage over all insurance in the amount of at least $3 million per occurrence and in the aggregate.
Great. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Okay, any further discussion on this motion?
Just a couple of items that I want to point out. Not in this contract is some language that we've had in prior contracts relating to coordinating with an outside counsel, which may be necessary if there is a conflict of interest with this firm. And while there is some reference in here to, I think in 3P, provides the city council with a quarterly report. What is not in here is language in prior contracts that indicated that the city attorney will meet annually with the city council in closed session to consider the personal evaluation of the city attorney. And I think those are good things to have in here. I don't have a particular motion that I can make that would add those, but there are some other items that have been in prior contracts requiring conformance with the Michigan rules of professional conduct and things like that, that would be advisable to be in here. If we can put this off a week, I'm happy to put that in writing, sort of like Councilmember Altman generously did for the rest of us with regard to the rental ordinance. But otherwise, I'm ready to go ahead here. I mean, those are things that I think are good items to have in the contract, but it doesn't make this contract awful by a long shot.
Okay, any further comments? Can we have a roll call?
I just want to make sure I'm
Go ahead,
following
please.
you, Councilmember Meadows. So you said closed session review with the current attorney on how they're doing.
Right.
And is that something that can be a resolution, like, can we make that a resolution later on?
Well, I think we can because we have the ability to add additional services under one paragraph here. You know, in 3.1, we have additional services, which should be just part of, you know, the prior paragraph. But I think we do have the ability to do that. I mean, you can
In
ask
the
the city
future,
manager
like in the future.
what he might have been thinking with regard to that.
So my view of all that is, I'm ready to move ahead tonight in the context of where I was on this a few weeks ago, which you all know. But the reality is, my view of the attorney-client relationship is any and all of those things can be part of our instructions to our attorney within the context of the contract, indicating to the attorney or the attorneys, we need you to do this for us, and direct them accordingly. And so I think, although I understand prior contracts have said this stuff, I think it's unnecessary at this point in time, and we can give those kinds of instructions. And having said that, I think both of these contracts have effectively a 30-day out, so that if for any reason we become dissatisfied with our counsel, we can terminate them with 30 days notice, like we just did tonight to our prior counsel. So I'm ready to move ahead. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Altman?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh?
Yes.
Mayor Burke?
Yes. I think we are at the end of our agenda. Thank you, staff, for sitting through all of this. Do we have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Moved by
Support.
Altman, support by who?
Everyone. Oh.
Support by the Mayor Pro Tem. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thanks, people. Thanks a lot.